Yeah, we back. That was Lord Mecca, I Could Rock. Now, I wanted to get into that joint. I thought it was so perfect that you mentioned How Can I Be Down? And that joint was actually off a tape cassette that I got. Mm-hmm. And it was a promo tape for How Can I Be Down? Talk to the people out there. And this has come up in a couple of my podcasts. How Can I Be Down? That whole festival that went down and what kind of big deal that was at that time.
Dude, it was a game changer for people like us, man. And I would imagine other people that were aspiring to do things because we had no connections to the industry. So it seemed very unrealistic. When I said to people around me, I want to do Crazy Up Productions, I want to, do stuff within hip hop culture, but as a career in the music industry, people were like, "You're crazy, man. You're in Kendall. Like, who the fuck do you know?" I knew nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when something like a How Can I Be Down comes in your backyard, you got to take advantage of that. And that's what we did, man. Like, we went deep out there, and I really took advantage of the networking opportunity. And I put everything I had learned up to that point, which it hadn't been long, but I fancy myself as a thinker and as a quick learner, and we had this strategy of how to market and promote ourselves and present ourselves to people, and man, we made a lot out of those conventions, man. And at the same time, as those conventions are coming, then you got that inspired the anti How Can I Be Down, which is Hoodstock, Yeah. So.
And you took advantage of these conventions and getting drops for your mixtapes and everything. And the only reason I know that is because you were on the Art Marrero show when he was doing it, the Medianoche podcast.
Yeah.
And you kind of alluded to how you would go to these conventions with your crew and just bum rush rappers.
Debo people, man. Yeah.
Give you drops.
Yeah. I mean, so there's different phases, and it's hard to imagine like the eras and how people were in this because it's just hard to imagine now. But the first How Can I Be Down in terms of approaching artists and people was a lot easier, especially artists, because hip hop was still so young. And although a lot of these guys, most of them from New York or LA, maybe some from Atlanta, Chicago, when they come to Miami, if some Miami dudes step to them and recognize them, they're fucking hella hype, man. Like, oh shit, like people know me. And these are big. I'm talking about like a Busta. I'm talking about like meeting Big Pun, meeting fucking Biggie, Puffy, whatever. All these fucking people, they were still approachable. It was an era where they were still approachable, so getting drops from them was a lot easier. And if they were kind of foul dudes, it didn't hurt that I had like 10 crazy hoods behind me looking at them like, what? You're not gonna give a drop? You're not gonna do a freestyle?
Small things
yeah.
Like...
And what I was really trying to do, which is what I feel like worked for me, is these drops, which were hard to come by. So getting those drops on a mixtape back then. Doesn't seem like much now, but having the biggest artists at that time, national artists, saying some EFN or whatever on a mixtape was big locally.
Yeah.
I had them all say one of a couple things. They definitely had to say EFN, but they had to, I told them to say Crazy Hood, Miami, and Kendall. And they had to say, they had to have Miami or Kendall in there, for sure. And that was important to me.
I would have hoped you would have said Hialeah too, but it's all is forgiven.
But let me tell you,
you've done good.
But let me tell you what you're saying. The way you're saying what you're saying is important. I looked at the way New York and the boroughs battled, and that's what made New York, New York. I said we can do that here, and I was like, you're not gonna fake where you're from. Like I can't fake that I'm from somewhere else in Miami if I live in Kendall. So I'm from fucking Kendall. But I feel that if I scream I'm from fucking Kendall, the dude in Hialeah be like I'm from fucking Hialeah, and the dude from Carol, I'm from fucking Carol City, and I'm from Cutler Ridge, and I'm from South End.
To help bubble that.
I wanted that to be more of a competitive hip hop thing, not like beef. Sometimes it turned into beef,
right?
But for the most part, on some like the way Karis won, the Kumo D's and the fucking MC Shan, all these different battles elevated them after that battle was over because they were all trying to be better, and that's what I wanted for Miami.
On the Art Marrero show again, you had one funny story that you told about smoking out with Exhibit.
Not smoking out.
Or chilling with Exhibit.
Yeah.
From the Hoodstock thing.
Yo, that shit was super dope. And I talked about it on Drink Champs with him. And we were in How Can I Be Down in South Beach. Exhibit had just come out with his first single. So not too many people recognized him. He was on his promo tour. And he was with the DJ that made the record.
Was he wearing a jacket on the beach?
He was wearing a basketball jersey. Nah, he definitely wasn't. But he was with the dude. What was the Paparazzi? That record to me was so fucking dope. He was with this DJ who produced that. I think I got more hyped meeting him than I was about meeting Exhibit, because I was so a fan of that record. You know, that beat.
Tayad, damn, his name escapes me. But he's dope.
I got Bacardi, man. I don't remember anything. So we hit him up. Exhibit's like, oh shit, like he's hyped that we recognize him, and then he tells me, he's like, yo, I gotta perform at this Hoodstock thing, you know, in a place, I don't know, Wynwood or something. You know where that's at? And we're like, fuck yeah, we know where that's at, man. We could take you. So you could take me? I'm like, yeah. So I have a Pathfinder at the time, and I'm like, all right, come on, man, we'll take you. And I remember I was with a bunch of crazy, and we're packing into my car, and I tell Exhibit, like, I look at him like, there's no room for you. You're gonna have to hit the trunk area. And I let his DJ had a seat.
Oh, shit.
But he was mad. He was like, yeah, whatever, you know, whatever, cool.
Where his loyalties lie.
Yeah.
The DJ. Oh.
Yeah. So he hits the trunk, you know, and on top of that, just, you know, whatever. It's like, I'm a fan, but I'm not, you know, like, you know, we all in this together type. So he jumps in the back, no problem though. He was mad, humble about it. I remember him having, like, this is vivid to me. He had an Echo Cantina, and he had gin and juice, which was very like typical of, like, you know, Exhibit, the Licks, that whole crew, them drinking. So it was all like, you know, like, oh, we're in this like video right now, you know. He's passing around pre-COVID the fucking, you know, the canteen of gin and juice. Everybody's drinking. We're fucking blasting music. I forget what the fuck we were playing. And probably me, knowing me, whenever I had artists, I played fucking Miami shit. So I'm playing either my crew or somebody else's crew. And we go to Wynwood, and then we go to Roberto Clemente Park where the Hoodstock was happening. And I remember pulling up, and I had pulled up on a side that there was no entrance. There's just a big ass fence on the side of the fucking stage. You can see the stage, you can see the audience. And we're like, fuck, and I'm like, fuck it, whatever. You know, he's like, I'm supposed to go. It was Heather B, MOP performing. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going right after them. And I'm like, oh shit, well, and I don't know where we parked. All I remember is all of a sudden we're climbing the fence with Exhibit, and people are like, yo, that's Crazy Hood with Exhibit. And we're like fucking scaling this big ass fence. And that's where my memory ends of that right there. But it was memorable as a motherfucker.
Not captured by paparazzi, but it did happen.
Pre-paparazzi, yeah.
Yo, so like Mecca was like a part of Science Room, Drunk Drew, that whole allegiance going on at the same time, and then Society is somebody that you mentioned that was rolling with him.
Love Society, man.
That you gave a lot of love for on mixtapes and all that.
I feel he was like one of the first like straight hip hop acts out of Miami that got a little bit of national love. And what made me so proud of Society is I remember going to New York around that time and hearing Yes Indeed, and like a car just driving by, and I'm like, oh my god, like I got chills. I'm like, this is Miami shit right here, you know? And that just got me super hype, and yeah, that whole movement. But one thing I want to say about Drunk Drew and all those guys, which I'm telling you, that's all Miami history. Like, we gotta all dive deeper into all that stuff. But going back to the competitive, like the borough thing I was talking about, I remember coming up in an era where it was like North versus South Miami. You know,
talk about
it was like, it was the Science Room cats, and it was my homies down here, like the Last Straws, Plan Beats, all these guys. And even though they all collaborated, but there was still like this whole weird thing. Even when you went to the clubs, it was like the North Miami hip hop guys versus the South Miami hip hop dudes. And you went there, and there was like a weird friction, weird vibe. It was like that on wax. It was like that in the club. It was like that beef. It was weird tension, but it made us all like one up each other and shit.
And
so
get better.
Get better.
Sword sharpen sword.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. I mean? Yep.
That's what it is. Like, bro, this is moving smoothly, and you mentioned something that's gonna go into this next joint, and this next joint is one of the only joints I think reps as hard as it does for Kendall.